Hey guys, so we are starting a new series explaining the history and events that took place within the universe of certain animes, starting with the Naruto universe, as the stories are at times either washed down or not explored in detail. This was more likely intentional as it lets us stay in the same constraints of the protagonist, but I'm hoping to bring light to how Kishimoto built and fashioned the world of Naruto. The first Shinobi World War was a huge historical milestone, so we are going to go balls deep into the past and explain how it all began and what events came from it. Before I start, I would like to remind you guys to hit that like button and notification bell to show us your support. Leave a comment on which anime history you want us to cover next, and I also wanted to let you guys know I'm going to be butchering a lot of pronunciations, so please forgive me, and without further ado, let's begin. Now, before we explore the first Shinobi World War, we have to understand the time before it all began. The world in Naruto had just gone through the era of the Warring States, which had just finally ended. In this video, we won't be covering too much about the era of the Warring States, but more of what happened right after. The ending of this era is marked with the founding of Konoha by the Uchiha and the Senju clan. After both clans formed a pact with the feudal lord of Hinokuni, the land of fire, establishing the Shinobi village Konohagakure within its borders, other clans wanted to join in the peace by deciding to reside in Konoha as well. The Shimuru and the Sarutobi clans were amongst the first to join, where later other clans followed. This movement actually inspired other countries to do the same by ending conflict within their own borders and establishing a Shinobi village in their land. This led to the creation of the 5 great Shinobi countries, basically the superpowers of the world, much like USA and China and Russia. These superpowers became the major players in the politics and trade game between the nations. Think about it, the countries are literally the most powerful nation around, each of them possessing an extremely powerful Shinobi village. So again, to compare it back to our world, imagine these 5 countries have their own personal organized army, while the rest of the other countries in the world are still fighting, causing disputes amongst themselves, having power struggles and disorder. These 5 great Shinobi countries are led by governmental leaders known as daimyo or feudal lord, who were in charge of ruling the individual nation through a monarch-like government. These countries are divided equally on an unknown continent to create a balance in the Shinobi world. They are the land of earth in the northwest, the land of lightning in the northeast, the land of water in the east, the land of wind in the southwest, and the land of fire right in the center. The countries are named after the dominant chakra nature of each of the areas. So ultimately, each of these nations allocated a hidden village to be the base of their military defense. So these are the hidden villages allocated by each country. The land of earth has Iwagakure, the land of lightning has Kumogakure, the land of water has Kirigakure, the land of wind has Sunagakure, and the land of fire has Konohagakure. These 5 villages are the only ones to have a Kage as a village head, but the land itself is usually governed by the feudal lord. Each of these hidden villages followed some sort of Shinobi organizational system from then on. Okay, so we now established that there are 5 powerful countries with their own organized military power. Although this might have brought peace within the countries itself, tension actually increased between these 5 newborn hidden villages. Now, a year or so later, Uchiha Madara and Hashirama had undergone their battle, and the 9-tailed fox ended up in the possession of Hashirama, which was later sealed inside his wife Mito Uzumaki. A lot of other things was also going on inside of Konoha around that time as well, like the formation of the Ninja Academy, the birth of the 3 Sanins, and at the same time, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Danzo Shimura, along with their other teammates, had officially become genins. Team-based operation and infiltration was also implemented, and although the other hidden villages also progressed in the same direction, there was an obvious power gap. Konoha with the first Hokage overscaled the difference in might. This led to unease and competitiveness between the villages, which was on top of the fact that each of the village had their own national interest to look after. Like every other country in history, resources such as land, agriculture and wealth always tend to start disputes and eventually war. Ultimately, the formation and growth of these 5 great Shinobi countries was one of the main reasons and cause for the world conflict that was about to occur. So let's get into how did the first world conflict actually start. Now, even though there were only 5 superpowered countries, many other hidden villages with Shinobis actually existed. Some of these villages were still in the mindset of revenge and violence, bearing the cycle of hatred from the olden days. At some point, Tokigakure, a hidden village by a waterfall which was located in the unnamed country, sent Kakuzu to assassinate Hashirama. Now, although Hashirama defeated defeated Kakuzu, other attacks began to break out even amongst the 5 great shinobi countries. So Hashirama, being the legend that he was, felt eager to form a lasting peace with the other villages. He captured the remaining tailed beast with his wood release, then arranged the very first Kage summit so that he could share the tailed beast he acquired with the other villages for free. Hashirama had good intentions as he wanted to form an alliance and bring peace by balancing the power. But his brother and advisor Tobirama demanded that the other villages should actually pay for the tailed beast they received. He wasn't really about that charity life. Later, the first Kazekage Rito counter-requested for money and territory instead of a tailed beast, as he revealed that his village, Sunagakure, already had one of the tailed beasts. Rito actually demanded that a portion of their neighbouring village Konoha's fertile land and 30% of whatever each nation had to pay for the tailed beast was given to Sunagakure. This would have made things fair in his eyes, but obviously the other Kages got pissed off and started arguing while threatening war until Hashirama broke it up and gave his awesome speech about his vision of peace and the future the shinobi world can have. Now, the details of how the summit actually ended wasn't really explored much, but what we do know is that there was a finalized agreement made to balance the power. So this is what actually happened. Hashirama had all of the tailed beast apart from the one tailed beast, Shukaku, which was already in the possession of Sunagakure. So Sunagakure more or less likely was compensated in other ways, like fertile land, wealth and whatnot. Hashirama sold the 2 tailed beasts Matatabi and 8-tailed Tsuyuki to Kumogakure. Kirigakure was sold the 3-tailed beast Isubu along with the 6-tailed beast Saiken. Iwagakure was sold the 4-tailed beast Sangoku and the 5-tailed beast Koku. Damn, I'm butchering these pronunciations. But you get my point. In the end, Hashirama kept the 9-tail for Konohagakure, but you might be wondering what did Hashirama did with the 7-tailed beast Chomei. Well, remember the village we talked about earlier? The same one that sent Kakuzu to assassinate Hashirama? Yeah, I'm talking about Tokigakure, the village hidden by a waterfall. Hashirama, out of goodwill, actually sold the 7-tailed beast to Tokigakure, making it the only tailed beast known not to belong to the 5 great shinobi countries. So after the distribution of the tailed beast, there was finally peace, but not for long. After all of this, you would have thought that everyone would get along, right? Like Hashirama literally went above and beyond for peace to happen. So what went wrong? Well, although selling the tailed beast to the villages was done with the intention of distributing the power equally among the countries, this may have actually increased the hostility. Due to the first Hokage's death, handling the tailed beast became extremely difficult. There was no wood released to suppress the beast, which in turn led to storing of bijus inside of people and the creation of jinchurikis. But even then, it was hard to control. The death of the first Hokage actually gave more power to the other villages, as Hashirama's ability to control and maintain any aggressors using the beast was no longer present. So some villages ended up being displeased with the end result of the power distribution. Individuals were also affected because of the use of the tailed beast from either going berserk or having it to be stored inside one of their loved ones. So the war began. If you guys want to look at it retrospectively, you could blame Hashirama and the tailed beast for all of this, but one could say that this war was inevitable and all Hashirama did was prolong it. Let me know what you guys think. Put it down in the comment section below. Is Hashirama really to blame, or is he completely blameless? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, so now we know more or less on how the war started, the formation of the 5 great shinobi countries, Hashirama, the tailed beast and all that good stuff. So what happens next? After the death of Hashirama, his brother Tobirama is appointed as the next Hokage. Being given that role in the midst of all that world conflict isn't easy. One of the first few things he had done was help complete the creation of the institutions such as the academy, the Ambu, the Chunin exams. He also made the Konoha military police force and other few things. Later, Tobirama readied his 3-man team consisting of Hiruzan, Sarutobi, Homura, Mitokado and Koharu Utatane. They were prepped for war and were taught to develop tactical procedures to carry out their mission. Around this time, during the war, a lot of the other first generation Kages were killed off and the second generation were appointed. The first Kazekage Rino was replaced by Shaman, the first Reikage A was replaced by a different A, the first Mizukage Byakuren was replaced by Gengetsu Huzuki, the first Tsuchikage Isuwaka was replaced by Mu, and as mentioned earlier, the first Hokage Hashirama was replaced by Tobirama. Now, all of these second Kages lasted throughout the first Ninja World War, and by the end of it, they were replaced by the next generation. So the highlight of this conflict was the battle between the second generation Kages, and although the war involved many different villages, the two main parties to play was Konohagakure and Kumugakure, but after a while, a peace treaty was formed between the two villages by their respective leaders, Tobirama the second Hokage and A the second Kage. However, unfortunately during the formal ceremony, they were attacked by the Kimgin Kyodai, or in English the Gold and Silver Brothers. The brothers tried to stage a coup against the second Kage. After this ambush, it is unclear if the second Kage survived. According to the information present, it did seem the second Kage actually did die. The second Hokage, Tobirama, had barely escaped with his life and was left pretty much injured. Due to the coup, the war continued between Konoha and Kumugakure. After a while, Tobirama's three-man team, along with Danzo Shimiru, Torifu Akimichi and Kagami Uchiha, later all found themselves surrounded by the Kumo Kinkaku force, a squad led by Kinkaku himself, one of the Gold and Silver Brothers. During this moment, they realized that there was no way out for them to escape without a decoy. Danzo was contemplating to step in but was too scared, so eventually Hiruzen requested to step in to be the decoy. Tobirama refused his request. Instead, he appointed Hiruzen Sarutobi as the third Hokage right there and then, and gave an awesome last speech before he went on to fight and hold off the Kinkaku force. In the end, Tobirama was killed by Kinkaku. It is assumed that once the third Kage took his position, he overcame the coup from the Gold and Silver Brothers and quickly reclaimed authority. Now, while this conflict between Konoha and Kumu was going on, the war between Kirigakure and Iwagakure was also taking place. Not much information is revealed about that battle, but during the conflict, the second Mizukage and the second Tsuchikage had a fight where both ended up killing each other. The role Sunagakure played was mainly against Iwagakure, as the land was very close to each other, but other than that, not much is told. After a while, like the first Kazekage, the second Kazekage, Shamon, was assassinated. So basically, all of the second generation leaders died off and passed on their mantle to the next generation near the end of the war. And after the third generation of Kages took their positions, the war finally was settled with a peace treaty, but not before all 5 countries had suffered serious damage. So that pretty much sums up the first Shinobi World War. Ended with a truce and finally peace. Although sometime later, the economic disparity between the great countries had become a serious problem. Some of the great nations began to form factions, and under the pretext of expending far right, the countries started to use military force to expand their territories, and after only 20 years, another war was about to begin. A fun fact about the conclusion of the first Shinobi World War is that it mirrors the events that followed the real-life First World War. World War I was ended with a truce before a treaty was finally signed, and by the time the conflicts ended, pretty much all the countries on the European continent were devastated in some shape or form. And just like in Naruto, within 20 years after the signing of the treaty, the Second World War was about to begin. If you enjoyed this video, then hit that like button and drop a comment below if you want me to cover the Second Shinobi World War. I don't mind doing that. I like this topic. I'm really fond of history, so I'm hoping to do more of this in the future. You can also send other recommendations my way through our social media platforms. And before I end this video, I'd like to remind you guys that we have partnered up with Bookwalker, who are offering a $5 discount with the voucher code AnimeDeep. So if you guys enjoy reading manga, make sure to check that link in the description box below and use our promotional code to get your discount. Alright guys, with that, I'll see you guys next time.